Hi community of awesome, I'm Ava J and this is Bookish Pixie. So I moved and my pretty bookish background is gone because all my books are still in boxes and I don't have my own personal bookshelves yet, and also I'm not sure when I'm going to get them, but I've been thinking about kind of just stacking my books like around here just to have something nice to sit in front of. But we'll see how that works out. Obviously I have not gotten to that yet. You might have a boring background for a few weeks, but yeah, I'm here. Related to my life right now, someone suggested that I do a vlog on moving when you have a bunch of books, which I thought was a great idea because I sort of had to just scour the internet to figure out a plan, and might become related to your lives at some point, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. Specifically, how to move affordably when you have a whole lot of books. Step 1, clean out your bookshelves. The first thing I knew I was going to have to do though was look at my bookshelves and decide what I really wanted to take. So I looked at my bookshelves and I pulled books that either A, I didn't really like that much while I was reading or had since lost interest in, and B, I knew I wasn't going to get to because, again, I'd lost interest between the time that I had gotten the book and now. All in all, it ended up being about 70 books that I was apathetic about, and so I brought them to my local library and donated them, which then brought me to step 2, the boxes. Whether you are moving yourself, using movers, or mailing your things, the kind of boxes you want to store your books in are small, heavy-duty boxes. I got mine at Home Depot. They have these extra thick ones that are good for heavy items. And the reason you want to do small boxes is because books get heavy really quickly, so you don't want to really stack too many per box because then you won't be able to lift it. I generally put around 15 books a box, and that brought me to an average of about 20 pounds a box. But packing your books isn't just throwing books in boxes. You also want to get packing materials, both to protect your books and to make sure they don't slide around everywhere. I was really fortunate because I had a friend who was a receiving manager at my formerly local Barnes & Noble, and he offered to just give me the packing materials that they had because the way it works is Barnes & Noble gets a bunch of books and those books are packed with packing materials, and then when Barnes & Noble takes the books out, they no longer need those packing materials. So I got a ton of packing materials for free, and that was great. If you aren't fortunate enough to have a friend who works at a local bookstore, I still would encourage you to go to your local bookstore and ask if they have any packing materials they'd be willing to give you, because chances are likely they do, and it just gets thrown out otherwise, so worth asking. And that brings me to step 3, which is an optional step, but I'm gonna mention it anyway, and that's getting organized. In the end, I ended up mailing 161 books, which ended up being about 13 boxes. I labeled each box number 1 through 13, and then I created an Excel spreadsheet, and I wrote down exactly which books I had put in each box because I didn't know when I was going to be able to unpack, and I didn't want to have to open up every single box to get a certain book. And then whether or not you do that, step 4 is actually moving the boxes. So I mailed my books as I said, and the way I was able to do this affordably was through the magic of media mail. Media mail is a class of mail you can do with the regular USPS postal system, and the rules are you can only send something that is considered media. So for me, that was books. The thing with media mail is it's a much slower system, which is why it's a lot cheaper, and there's not really insurance involved, so you're taking a bit of a risk. I took the risk though anyway because it was the most affordable, and so I ended up sending 13 boxes. As I said, they're each roughly about 20 pounds, and it only cost me on average $11 a box, which is pretty darn good. I'm happy to report they all arrived to their final destination safe and sound. One box was really beat up, it was like all torn up on the sides, but it didn't matter because the packing materials protected my books. So there you go. So that's how I moved my library in an affordable way, and you know, it might help you one day too. So that's what I got for today. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys next week.